Japan's recent strategic maneuvering in Southeast Asia, particularly its deepening defense ties with Vietnam and the Philippines, has stirred notable unease in Beijing. These developments represent a significant shift in the regional security landscape, raising questions about the implications for China's regional ambitions, especially in the contested waters of the South China Sea. The strengthening of defense relations between Japan and these Southeast Asian nations is not merely a bilateral affair, but part of a broader geopolitical contest that has far-reaching consequences for the Indo-Pacific region. Japan's engagement in Southeast Asia, particularly in the defense domain, has traditionally been understated, overshadowed by its economic presence. However, in recent years, Tokyo has shifted its approach, moving from a primarily economic focus to a more pronounced military involvement. This shift is largely driven by the growing assertiveness of China in the South China Sea and its broader regional ambitions, which Japan perceives as a direct threat to its security and the stability of the Asia-Pacific region. As former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe stated during the 2014 Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, "We must never allow the seas to become a place where might makes right. We must make them the seas of peace and prosperity, based on the rule of law, not the seas of war and conflict."
本日はそのため日本として何をなすべきか。
All countries must observe international law. Ladies and gentlemen, Japan will offer its utmost support for the efforts of the countries of ASEAN as they work to ensure the security of the seas and the skies and thoroughly maintain freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight.
Japan, as a maritime nation, will play an even more proactive role to make this happen. This declaration encapsulates Japan's commitment to maintaining the rule of law in the South China Sea, reflecting its proactive stance in regional security. Japan's strategic outreach to Southeast Asia, and specifically to Vietnam and the Philippines, can be traced back through a complex historical context that includes periods of cooperation, conflict, and rehabilitation.
Japan has hitherto provided 12 ships to the Coast Guard to play a part in improving the Philippines' maritime security capability.
Early contact between Japan and Vietnam in the 8th century, marked by cultural exchanges, laid the foundation for a relationship that would evolve significantly over the centuries. By the 16th and 17th centuries, trade between the two nations flourished, with Japanese merchants frequenting Vietnamese ports, establishing a basis for future diplomatic ties. However, the most dramatic turn came during World War II, when Japan's relationship with Southeast Asia took a brutal turn. The Japanese occupation of Vietnam and the Philippines was marked by severe military oppression and exploitation. In Vietnam, Japan's wartime policies led to the devastating 1945 famine, which claimed the lives of over 1 million Vietnamese. In the Philippines, Japanese forces were responsible for atrocities, including the Manila Massacre, where tens of thousands of Filipino civilians were killed. These brutal actions left deep scars and fueled strong anti-Japanese sentiment that persisted long after the war ended. Post-war Japan adopted a pacifist constitution, which severely restricted its military capabilities and defense-related activities. This period was characterized by Japan's focus on economic recovery and development, largely through its Official Development Assistance, ODA programs. These efforts played a crucial role in repairing relations with Southeast Asian nations, including Vietnam and the Philippines, laying the groundwork for a new era of diplomatic and economic cooperation. However, the security dynamics in the region began to change in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. North Korea's missile tests, coupled with China's military expansion, especially in the South China Sea, compelled Japan to reassess its defense posture. A significant turning point came in 2014, when Japan introduced new guidelines that relaxed its restrictions on the export of defense equipment and technology. This policy shift marked a departure from Japan's post-war pacifism, enabling the country to engage more actively in regional security matters. The revised export policy allowed Japan to provide military aid and sell defense equipment to countries with shared strategic interests, particularly in Southeast Asia. This shift was not only a means of strengthening Japan's defense industry, but also a strategic tool to reinforce alliances and partnerships in the region. Notably, Japan provided Vietnam with 6 used maritime surveillance vessels in 2014, bolstering Hanoi's ability to monitor and protect its maritime interests in the South China Sea. Additionally, Japan has transferred radar systems and other defense technologies to the Philippines, enhancing Manila's capabilities to respond to maritime security threats. Japan's defense cooperation with Southeast Asia is intricately linked to its broader strategic vision for the region, encapsulated in the Vientiane Vision. Announced by Japan's then Defense Minister Tomomi Inada in November 2016, the Vientiane Vision was designed to address the growing security challenges in the Indo-Pacific, particularly those posed by China's increasing assertiveness in the South China Sea. The vision is anchored in 3 main pillars: enhancing maritime security, upholding international law, and addressing complex security issues through capacity-building initiatives. The Vientiane Vision aims to elevate defense cooperation between Japan and ASEAN member states, with a particular focus on maritime security, capacity building, and the promotion of the rule of law. This vision reflects Japan's unwavering commitment to peace, stability, and the security of the Indo-Pacific region, stated Japan's Ministry of Defense in 2016. One of the core components of the Vientiane Vision is Japan's support for ASEAN's efforts to enhance maritime security.
私の方からはこの仲裁裁判についてはですね、これは当事者を拘束する最終的な
Given the strategic importance of the South China Sea and the growing tensions in the region, Japan has committed to assisting ASEAN nations in building their capabilities in intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, as well as search and rescue operations. This commitment is not only a response to China's maritime ambitions, but also a reflection of Japan's own security concerns, as it seeks to ensure freedom of navigation and the rule of law in regional waters. Another critical aspect of the Vientiane Vision is Japan's support for ASEAN's efforts to uphold international law, particularly in maritime and airspace domains. Japan has consistently advocated for the importance of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, and other international legal frameworks in resolving disputes in the South China Sea. Through the Vientiane Vision, Japan aims to strengthen ASEAN's capacity to navigate these complex legal waters, promoting a rules-based international order that counters unilateral actions and coercion. To operationalize the Vientiane Vision, Japan has implemented a series of practical cooperation measures with ASEAN countries. These include joint military exercises, capacity-building programs, and strategic dialogues aimed at fostering a deeper understanding of international law and enhancing practical defense cooperation. Japan has also sought to expand its ASEAN-wide cooperation through multilateral frameworks, such as the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus, which provides a platform for dialogue and collaboration on regional security issues. Vietnam and the Philippines, both facing territorial disputes with China in the South China Sea, have been increasingly receptive to Japan's overtures. Their strategic calculations are driven by the need to balance China's growing influence while enhancing their own defense capabilities. Vietnam's defense strategy has been characterized by a careful balancing act. On one hand, Hanoi seeks to maintain stable relations with China, its largest neighbor and a key economic partner. On the other hand, Vietnam is acutely aware of the threats posed by China's assertiveness in the South China Sea, where Beijing's expansive territorial claims overlap with Vietnamese waters. In response to these challenges, Vietnam has pursued a strategy of diversifying its defense partnerships. Japan, with its advanced defense technology and shared concerns about China's actions in the South China Sea, has emerged as a key partner in this strategy. The recent agreements between Japan and Vietnam, including the transfer of supply transport vehicles and discussions on more sophisticated defense cooperation, are part of this broader strategy. Vietnam's elevation of its diplomatic ties with Japan to a comprehensive strategic partnership, the highest level in Hanoi's diplomatic hierarchy, underscores the importance it places on its relationship with Tokyo. As former Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc emphasized in 2020, Vietnam highly values the comprehensive strategic partnership with Japan. Our defense cooperation is based on mutual trust and shared interest in maintaining regional peace and stability. We welcome Japan's contributions to enhancing our maritime security capabilities. This partnership goes beyond defense, including economic, technological, and cultural cooperation, reflecting a holistic approach to bilateral relations. The strategic alignment between Japan and Vietnam is also evident in their shared commitment to regional stability. Japan has expressed interest in joining the Cambodia-Laos-Vietnam (CLV) military exercises planned for the end of 2024, aiming to strengthen and expand bilateral cooperation between Japan and the CLV countries. This initiative highlights Japan's commitment to deepening its defense ties with Southeast Asian nations, further enhancing its role in regional security dynamics. The Philippines' strategic calculations are similarly shaped by its concerns over China's actions in the South China Sea. The recent joint military exercises between Japan and the Philippines, including live fire drills in the South China Sea, are a clear indication of the deepening security relationship between the two countries. The signing of the Reciprocal Access Agreement, RAA, in 2024 marked a significant milestone in Japan-Philippines defense relations. This agreement allows Japanese forces to deploy in the Philippines for joint military exercises, and in return, Filipino forces can also enter Japan for joint combat training. The RAA is part of a broader strategy to enhance defense cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, particularly in the face of China's growing assertiveness. The Philippines views Japan as a key partner in its efforts to bolster its defense capabilities and ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific.
I think the RIA is an important document because it enables the Philippines and Japan now to have a framework for our cooperation in defense and security and other related issues. And I think whether we will need to expand it to cover other areas or not will really depend on how the situation develops and also in what areas we wish to proceed and how to further develop the RAA. But what's important is that I think what the RAA has done is that it could serve as a force for stability in the region.
This partnership is further supported by broader regional initiatives, such as the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, Quad, which includes Japan, the United States, Australia, and India. The Quad has become an important platform for coordinating security efforts in the Indo-Pacific, and the deepening of Japan-Philippines defense ties is a natural extension of this multilateral cooperation.
Our mission remains the same, and that is to advance our vision of a free, open, secure, and prosperous Indo-Pacific.
A region where sovereignty is respected and all countries, large and small, benefit from a regional balance that keeps the peace.
The strategic significance of the Japan-Philippines alliance is also evident in the broader context of regional security dynamics. The South China Sea is a critical maritime corridor, and the security of this region is of paramount importance, not only to the countries directly involved, but also to the broader international community. By strengthening its defense ties with the Philippines, Japan is contributing to the security of this vital region and ensuring that the balance of power remains in favor of a rules-based international order. China's reaction to the growing defense cooperation between Japan, Vietnam, and the Philippines has been marked by a mixture of concern and strategic recalibration. Beijing views these developments as a direct challenge to its influence in Southeast Asia, particularly in the South China Sea, where China has made expansive territorial claims. China's leadership has repeatedly emphasized its opposition to what it perceives as external interference in the South China Sea. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi has articulated Beijing's concerns, stating, China respects the defense cooperation between countries, but firmly opposes any actions that threaten regional stability or infringe upon China's sovereignty. We urge Japan and the countries involved to refrain from actions that could escalate tensions in the South China Sea. This statement reflects China's broader strategic concerns, particularly its desire to prevent the emergence of a regional security architecture that could counterbalance its influence. Beijing's strategic calculus is shaped by its broader regional ambitions, particularly its desire to establish a sphere of influence in Southeast Asia. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, along with its efforts to militarize artificial islands in the South China Sea, are key components of this strategy. However, the deepening of defense ties between Japan, Vietnam, and the Philippines poses a significant challenge to these ambitions. From Beijing's perspective, the trilateral defense cooperation is seen as part of a broader strategy by the United States and its allies to contain China. This perception has driven China to strengthen its own military capabilities and enhance its diplomatic efforts in Southeast Asia, seeking to counterbalance the influence of Japan and its partners. China has also intensified its engagement with ASEAN, attempting to shape the regional agenda in a way that is more favorable to its interests. At the same time, Beijing is aware of the risks associated with escalating tensions in the region. While China has been assertive in its territorial claims, it has also sought to avoid direct military confrontations that could destabilize the region and harm its economic interests. This balancing act is becoming increasingly complex as Japan and its Southeast Asian partners enhance their defense cooperation. The deepening defense ties between Japan, Vietnam, and the Philippines have the potential to significantly alter the balance of power in the Indo-Pacific. For Beijing, these developments are troubling for several reasons. First, they represent a shift away from the traditional ASEAN-centric security framework, where China had considerable influence, to a more diversified security architecture that includes external powers like Japan and the United States. Second, these partnerships could lead to increased military presence and activities in the South China Sea, further complicating China's efforts to assert control over the region. The joint military exercises between Japan and the Philippines in particular have been a source of concern for Beijing, as they signal a growing willingness among regional actors to counter China's maritime ambitions. In response, China has sought to strengthen its own alliances and partnerships in the region. Beijing has intensified its diplomatic efforts to win over ASEAN countries, offering economic incentives and development aid to counterbalance the influence of external powers. However, these efforts have been met with mixed success, as many Southeast Asian nations remain wary of China's intentions and continue to seek closer ties with Japan and the United States. Moreover, China has also ramped up its military activities in the South China Sea, including the construction of artificial islands and the deployment of military assets in disputed areas. These actions are aimed at reinforcing its territorial claims and deterring any challenges to its dominance in the region. The growing defense ties between Japan, Vietnam, and the Philippines are reshaping the strategic landscape of the Indo-Pacific. These partnerships, driven by shared concerns over China's actions, have the potential to enhance regional security, but also risk escalating tensions. The deepening defense cooperation between Japan, Vietnam, and the Philippines is a positive development for regional security. These partnerships enhance the capabilities of Southeast Asian nations to defend their interests and contribute to a more balanced power dynamic in the region. By working together, these countries can better deter potential aggression and ensure that the South China Sea remains open and free for all. Furthermore, the involvement of external powers like Japan in regional security affairs serves as a counterbalance to China's growing influence. Japan's commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific, as articulated in its Vientiane vision, aligns with the interests of Southeast Asian nations and provides a framework for collective security.